Hello everyone, this is Saloni Sharma, Associate Professor in Physics from Hansraj Mahila Mahavidyalaya Jalandhar. Today we are going to discuss about X-rays, and the order of the discussion will be what are X-rays and how they were discovered, what are the different methods for the production of X-rays, and then we will discuss in detail the different types of X-ray spectra. The X-rays were accidentally discovered in 1895 by German physicist Wilhelm Röntgen. While he was working in his lab with discharge tube, he made two important observations. Firstly, he found that the shadow of his hand was formed on the fluorescent screen placed in front of the tube. He also found that barium platinocyanide screen placed near the discharge tube began to glow. So, he concluded that some unknown radiations were being emitted by the discharge tube, hence he initially named them as X-rays. For this discovery, he was awarded Nobel Prize in 1991 and the X-rays were named as Röntgen rays. After the discovery of X-rays, many attempts were made to study their properties, and it was observed that X-rays are not deflected by electric and magnetic field. They travel in straight line with the velocity of light. They are highly penetrating and pass through many solids which are opaque to ordinary light. They produce fluorescence in many substances and also affect photographic plate. They can ionize the gas through which they pass, and they also eject electrons from certain metals on which they fall. They can even show the phenomena like interference and diffraction, and also produce secondary radiations like scattered X-rays, characteristic X-rays, beta rays, etc. So, looking at all these properties, it was concluded that X-rays are electromagnetic rays occupying the region between UV and gamma rays and have wavelength ranging from 10 raised to power minus 9 to 10 raised to power minus 11 meters. The X-rays having high energy are called hard X-rays, whereas the X-rays having low energy are called soft X-rays. Now we will discuss the production of X-rays. The principle behind the production of X-rays is that when a fast-moving electron falls on a target of atom having high atomic number, due to the force of attraction between the nucleus and the electrons get deaccelerated and emit radiation in the form of X-rays. The energy of about 2 to 5% of electrons is converted into X-rays, whereas the rest of the energy is converted into heat. The first method adopted for the production of X-rays is Röntgen tube, which is simply a glass discharge tube with some modifications. So Röntgen tube consists of a spherical glass tube having 3 side tubes. The cathode is a concave aluminum disc. The electrons that are emitted from the cathode are concentrated at its focus where the target is placed. The target is held at an angle of 45 degrees to the path of cathode rays. The anode is aluminum rod connected externally to the anticathode or the target. When a very high potential difference of about 10 raised to power 5 volts is applied between the cathode and the anode, the X-rays are produced which come out through the glass walls of the bulb. Now the target chosen should possess some particular properties. The first is high atomic number. Because the X-rays are produced when electrons pass closer to the nucleus of atom having high atomic number. So target should possess high atomic number. Now, as almost 2 to 5% of energy is converted to X-rays and rest of the energy is converted into heat, So the target should have high melting point so that it does not melt due to the production of heat. And it should also have very high thermal and electrical conductivity, because even if heat energy is produced, it should immediately be transferred to the surroundings with the help of the metallic rod. Now we have to discuss about the intensity and quality. The intensity means the number of photons of X-ray produced, and the quality of X-rays means the energy of the photons of X-rays. So intensity, that is the number of photons of the X-rays produced, will depend on the number of electrons produced by the cathode, which will depend upon the potential difference applied between the cathode and the anode. The quality or the penetrating power of the X-rays produced will depend upon the energy of the incident electrons. Now, greater the energy of the electrons emitted from the cathode, greater the electrons will strike the target with more energy, and hence X-rays of high energy will be produced. So again, we can achieve this by increasing the potential difference between the cathode and the anode. So in this case, that is in Roentgen tube, we can control intensity as well as quality of X-rays by changing the potential difference applied between the cathode and anode. The limitations of the Roentgen tube is that we cannot separately control the intensity and quality of the X-rays produced, because both depend upon the potential difference applied between the cathode and the anode. Secondly, the potential difference to be applied is very high because it is of the order of 10⁵ volts, and if the tube runs by the reverse current, then the target will become negative and the cathode will become positive. So electrons will move with high energy from anode to cathode. Thus the amount of heat produced at the cathode may damage the cathode. So these are the three limitations of the Roentgen tube which were taken care of in Coolidge tube. So in Coolidge tube, it again consists of an evacuated glass tube containing a cathode and an anticathode, which is the target. The electrons are produced via the thermionic emission from white tungsten filament by applying low potential difference through a low tension battery. High voltage of about 50,000 volts is applied between the cathode and the anode. The target is again placed at an angle of 45 degrees to the path of electrons. It should have high atomic number, it should have high melting point, and it should have high thermal and electrical conductivity. Now again, the 2 to 5% of energy of the electrons is converted into X-rays which come out of the glass tube, and rest of the energy is converted into heat, which is immediately transferred to the cooling system with the help of the metal rod, and in the cooling system water is continuously circulated to draw heat from the target. Now in this tube we can independently control the quality and intensity of X-ray produced. By varying the potential difference applied across the filament, we can change the amount of heat produced in the filament and hence the number of electrons generated from the grid. The greater the number of electrons generated, greater will be the number of photons of X-rays produced. So we can see that by varying the potential difference across the filament, we can vary the number of X-ray photons produced. Now, given the number of electrons produced, if we vary the potential difference between the cathode and anode, the energy acquired by the electrons in moving from cathode to anode will increase. As we know that if we apply a potential difference of V volt across the anode and the cathode, the electron will acquire an energy of E into V in moving from cathode to anode. So by varying the potential difference between the cathode and anode, we can vary the energy of the incident electrons and hence the energy of the X-rays. So we can see that in this Coolidge tube, we are able to control the intensity as well as quality of X-rays produced separately. Now we can calculate the wavelength of X-rays produced also, that if we apply a potential difference of V volt between the cathode and anode, the energy acquired by the electrons in moving from cathode to anode is equal to E into V. And if m is the mass of the electron and v is the velocity gained by the electron, the kinetic energy, that is equal to half mv square, that will be equal to E into V. So from here we can calculate the velocity of the electrons, that is 2ev over m under root. If we suppose that whole of the energy of the incident electron is converted into X-rays, then having frequency nu, then we can say that E h nu is equal to half mv square or is equal to E into V. So nu is equal to EV over h, or lambda is equal to hc over EV. Substituting the value of Planck's constant, velocity of light and the charge on the electron, we can find that lambda is equal to 12,400 upon V. Now, in order to study the spectra of X-rays, fast moving electrons are made to fall on the target in an X-ray tube. The X-rays produced are examined by Bragg spectrometer. The intensity versus lambda curve of the X-rays are found to have wavelength varying constantly between the minimum and maximum values, along with some well-defined wavelengths. That is, it consists of a few sharp peaks superimposed on the continuous background. Hence, we have a combination of two different types of spectra. One is the continuous or white spectra, whereas the other is characteristic spectra. The continuous and the white spectra is independent of the nature of target, but its intensity is proportional to the atomic number of the target material. It consists of X-rays of all possible wavelengths, starting from the minimum possible wavelength, which depends upon the potential difference applied between the cathode and anode. The characteristic spectrum consists of a series of bright lines superimposed on the continuous luminous background, and these bright lines in the spectrum, they are characteristic of the target. Now, talking about the origin of continuous spectra, the continuous spectra is produced due to the phenomena of Bremsstrahlung, that is, slowing down of electron while passing close to the nucleus of an atom having high atomic number. When electron passes close to the nucleus of the target atom having high atomic number and atomic mass, then they are deflected from their path due to the strong electrostatic interactions between the electron and target nucleus, and hence due to this deceleration they lose some of its kinetic energy, which is emitted in the form of electromagnetic radiations or X-ray photons. Now, if we suppose that the velocity of the incident electron is v, and v naught is the velocity of electron after it penetrates the atom, then the frequency nu of the emitted X-ray photons will be given by the formula h nu, is equal to half mv square minus half mv naught square. At the most, the electron will be stopped by the nucleus. That is, maximum we can have that velocity of the incident particle becomes 0 after it penetrates into the atom. So that means h nu maximum is equal to half mv square minus 0. So that is half mv square. So half mv square, h nu maximum will be equal to half mv square. Now if capital V is the potential difference applied between the cathode and the target, then the kinetic energy which was initially gained by the electron was equal to E into capital V. So we can say that E into capital V is equal to h nu maximum or hc by lambda minimum, which again gives us lambda minimum is equal to 12,400 upon V, where V is the potential difference applied between the cathode and anode. So this result is also supported by the graph between the wavelength and intensity emitted by X-rays of different X-rays for different values of voltage. So if we draw graphs between the wavelength and intensity of emitted radiation X-rays for different values of V, we find that the lambda minimum decreases with increasing accelerating potential. So just for 20 kilovolts, the lambda minimum is around 0.06 nanometers. For 30 kilovolts, it's 0.04 nanometers, and so on. The range of the continuous spectrum is independent of the nature of the target. The intensity of X-rays rises to a maximum at a certain wavelength, and then after that it gradually decreases. The intensity and the maximum intensity both for a given particular wavelength increases with the increase in applied potential difference. The wavelength corresponding to maximum intensity shifts gradually towards the lower wavelength side as the accelerating potential is increased. Now, the origin of characteristic spectra. The characteristic spectra is observed in the form of sharp peaks superimposed on the continuous spectrum. So this is characteristic because of its origin, that when fast moving electron penetrates into the atom, it may knock out electron from some inner shell, for example K shell. Now if the electron is ejected from the K shell, it may be filled by an electron from L shell or M shell or N shell and so on. As a result, when the electron from L shell jumps to fill the vacancy that was created in the K shell, the difference in the energy is emitted in the form of X-ray photons. Now since these energy levels of the orbits of the target atom, they are particular or characteristic of the given atom, so hence the energy of the photon emitted is also characteristic of the target atom. Now if the vacancy was created in L shell, so it would be filled by an electron from M shell or N shell or O shell and so on. Hence we get L alpha, L beta and L gamma lines. So we can have K alpha, K beta, K gamma, K delta lines. Similarly L alpha, L beta and L gamma lines and so on. Now another effect which is observed in case of X-rays is that when a beam of X-rays is made to fall on target matter, we have already seen that it emits electron from the shell. For example, let's say K shell, which will be filled by an electron from L shell producing an X-ray photon. Now this X-ray photon may, before coming out of the atom, it may knock out another electron with no energy left in the form of photon, and the process of emission of this extra electron from L shell is called Auger effect, and the electron thus emitted is called Auger electron. So we can see from this diagram that the incident photon, that is the X-ray photon, ejects an electron from the K shell. When the electron from L shell jumps into the K shell to fill this frequency, fill this vacancy, characteristic photons are produced. But this characteristic photon, in this diagram it is shown that before coming out, it knocks out another electron from the same shell, and this another electron emitted is called Auger electron. The Auger electron will have energy equal to EI minus EF, where EI is the energy of the atom which was singly ionized, and EF is the energy of the energy of the atom which is doubly ionized. This type of atomic transition does not involve the emission of photon, because the total energy of the photon was transmitted, readjusted into the electron, Auger electron. So therefore these type of transitions are often called non-radiative transitions. So in general, the uses of X-rays being highly penetrating rays, find many different uses in surgery, in destroying malignant tumors, in finding defects in radio walls or rubber tires, so on, in also detecting flaws in heavy girders and cracks or air bubbles in goods. It also utilized in making detection of presence of smuggled gold, and most importantly, it is widely used in research to investigate the structure of crystal, arrangement of atoms and molecules in the matter, and their behavior on different materials through X-ray diffraction techniques. Thank you.